In Ontario, you have the right to ask the government what it's doing with your money, what decisions it's making, who it's talking to. It's called the Freedom of Information Law, and it's the only reason we know half of what Doug Ford has been up to. Well, he's trying to kill it. And he says it's because China wants his text messages. Here's why I think he's doing it. It starts with a video.
We will open up the Greenbelt, not all of it. We're going to open a big chunk of it up, and we're going to start building. I've already talked to some of the biggest developers in this country.
Doug Ford, caught on camera, making a corrupt backroom deal with a room full of developers. Vote for me, he says, and I'll open up the Greenbelt for you. The video was leaked. Public backlash was massive, so Doug Ford backtracked. He said,
unequivocally, we won't touch the Greenbelt. I've heard it loud and clear. People don't want me touching the Greenbelt. We won't touch the Greenbelt.
Well, he won the election, and then he did it anyway. Here's how it happened. His housing minister's chief of staff sits down to dinner with two well-connected developers, close friends of Doug Ford. One of them slides an envelope across the table. Inside, a list of land they'd already quietly bought. Land they wanted opened up. Weeks later, Ford announces 3,700 acres of Greenbelt land is being opened for development. 92% of the land in that envelope was on the list. That land went from being worth $240 million to $8.3 billion overnight. And here's the thing. We only found out about it because of Freedom of Information requests that we had filed, that journalists had filed. And what those requests revealed was damning. Emails being deleted, using code words, doing government business on personal phones so there wouldn't be any paper trail. The RCMP launched a criminal investigation, and Doug Ford said, "No problem, I'll hand over my phone records. Nothing to hide." Well, that was 3 years ago, and what followed was the most drawn-out game of keep away that this province has ever seen. Global News filed an FOI for the phone records. The government said no. They fought it for years.
An Ontario court has ruled that Premier Doug Ford must release portions of his personal cell phone call logs, an order that the Premier is refusing to comply with.
3 judges ruled against Doug Ford. The records had to come out. So what does Doug Ford do? He announces he's changing the law to stop his phone records from coming out. With this change, the Premier, his cabinet, their offices, pretty much every Conservative MPP would be permanently exempt from Freedom of Information laws, retroactively, including every request already filed. So let me ask you something. What is in those phone records? What is so dangerous, so explosive, that Doug Ford would rather change the law than let you see it? What did he say? Who was he talking to? What did he know? And when did he know it? Is he hiding criminal activity? You deserve to know. But if Doug Ford gets his way, you never will. Look, the government's own independent privacy commissioner called this move hiding government business to evade public accountability. This is not a government that got caught doing something embarrassing. This is a government that is methodically, deliberately, piece by piece, trying to get away with using your tax dollars for their benefit. Now look, I know a lot of people watching this might think, color me surprised, this is just what politicians do. They all do it. And if that's how you feel, well, I think you deserve so much better than the same old politics in Ontario. Because let me tell you this, Ontario is the largest province in this country. We generate 38% of Canada's entire GDP. We have one of the biggest economies in the G7. And right now, with Trump's tariffs threatening our economy, our manufacturing, our jobs, what we need is a government that's laser focused on protecting our economy. But instead, Doug Ford's scandal after scandal after scandal keeps getting in the way. Your premier is in court fighting to hide his phone records. And when he loses, he's just changing the law. And look, this grift, it has a real cost, because every time Doug Ford chooses to help the people who help him, that's a choice not to help you. Every backroom deal, every insider contract, that's money, that's attention, that's resources that could have gone to your hospital, to actually doing something about the cost of groceries, to give your kid a real shot, or to help our workers weather the storm. Doug Ford is making that choice over and over and over again. I believe government can actually make your life better. It absolutely can. So look, if you voted Conservative in the last election, or Liberal, or Green, and especially if you didn't vote at all, If you agree that we can do so much better, then I hope I can earn your trust and your vote, because this province is too big. The people in it are too good for politicians who keep choosing themselves over you.